Good morning and welcome to this panel on electricity, the regional challenges towards 2020. My name is Fabian Zulik. I'm the Chief Executive of the European Policy Center, and it's my pleasure to moderate this panel, and thank you very much to the Lithuanian presidency for inviting me. This panel will discuss concrete challenges for grid development and what has been done at the national level to address them. And of course, what more needs to be done both at the national level and the EU level. As you can see, the panel is a bit smaller than we had originally envisaged in the program. Unfortunately, Ivo Lavic had to cancel for personal reasons, and Susanne Nies from Euroelectric caught the flu, so she can't be there. Hopefully we will have a slightly shorter panel to enable you to have lunch at the time which was envisaged, but we will run over a little bit if necessary. But while we have a much smaller panel, it's very high quality. We have Cezary Szwed, who's a member of the management board of PSE Poland. We have Davis Biskas, who is chairman of the board of Litgrid from Lithuania. And we've got Arturos Servos, chairman, CEO, and president of the Public Power Corporation from Greece. Before handing over to the panel, I will just make a few remarks. As I said, I head up the European Policy Center. We are an independent Brussels-based think tank, and we have a very wide membership, companies, NGOs, member states, non-member states. And that means we take quite a broad view on energy policy. And for us, that always raises one big puzzling question. From our point of view, it's clear that infrastructure, and in particular smart cross-border electricity grids, can hit many of the EU's objectives, be it greater competitiveness. Certainly energy and electricity is a crucial part of industrial policy. Be it growth and jobs, both in the short term and the longer term, be it security of supply, helping to achieve climate change objectives, or enabling effective solidarity between member states. So from our perspective, it's a win-win situation, politically, economically, environmentally. So why is it not fast enough? What are the crucial barriers which are still holding up progress? Certainly, there are still barriers, both at EU level and at national level. One barrier is money, public money in particular, which is not particularly available at the moment, especially in some member states. Another issue is market conditions and the conditions for private investment, and also the investment framework in the kind of permits, regulations, standards which are there. So there are a lot of things which can be done, both at national level and at European level. We will hear a bit more on what is happening at national level, what the barriers are. But let me just say from the European level, just a couple of points which we, I think, need to address to make progress. I think we've already heard this morning about the need for cross-border investment, and the Connecting Europe facility clearly is a very important element of that. So its implementation, I think, will be very important. The question is how fast can we actually get this investment on the ground? But I think we also need to look at helping public investment in countries where funds are not available. Whether that's through the structural investment fund and investment funds, through cohesion funding, or through the project bonds initiative. I think there are a number of things which are available now at the European level. But I think even more importantly is to create the market conditions and the stability to encourage private investment. This is where there's the big pot of money. And for me, that implies a greater EU role. It implies that there has to be a long-term strategy which is clearly followed at the national and at the EU level, which includes also looking at difficult issues such as the energy mix. I think we also need to address some country-specific risks which arise from the crisis. and I'm sure we hear a bit more on how things look in particular countries from the panel. So there are a number of things, I think, on the table for discussion. I think the Commission has put a number of things forward, which will be helpful, but we also need the national level action. And to hear a bit about the examples of national level action, we will start with the case of Poland, and I think the connection to Lithuania as well. So we will start with Cezary Šved. You've got 5 minutes or so. I'll be a bit flexible, and then we go through the panel, and afterwards we will open it up for the audience.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation for the conference. In my introductory statement, I would like to share with you the experience gained by the Polish transmission system operator, my company, PSC company, in grid development, and both in planning and investment processes were conducted. Since some years, we carry development of transmission infrastructure project on a very large scale. Our development plan up to 2025 consists of the projects for 5 billion euro. Our biggest cross-border project currently under development is the interconnection between Poland and Lithuania. This project, from our perspective, is divided into two parts. One is the cross-border part, is a connection between our border substation EUG and Lithuanian border substation Alytius, and the second part is a reinforcement of our internal grid in northeastern part of Poland. Development of cross-border part of this project is organized in close cooperation with our Lithuanian colleagues, Lithuanian TSO Litgrid, and supported by jointly owned special purpose daughter company Litpol-Link. So I think that my Lithuanian colleague, Mr. Hvdc, will certainly share with you Lithuanian experience related to this project. I would like to give you information concerning the important features of the project on the Polish territory and administrative barriers we have to overcome. To achieve 500 megawatts of cross-border transmission capacity in 2015, we have to construct in Poland over 400 kilometers of 400 kV lines, and we have to construct 5 completely new substations and refurbish 2 existing ones. The new lines cross over our 3 regions, our 3 voivodeships, and 46 local administrative areas in very difficult environmental conditions. Northeastern part of Poland, in northeastern part of Poland, there is a lot of lakes, hundreds of lakes, 3 or 4 national parks, many landscape protected parks, many environmental protected areas. That region is very difficult from the environmental point of view for us to find the corridors for our transmission lines. The project is also expensive, difficult to finance based only on regulatory framework, thus requiring external support. For your information, Polish part of the project is financed in 60% by TSO and in 40% by European Union funds. The project has challenging schedule, as is of crucial importance for reaching the EU target, being elimination of energy island by 2015. So, where we are today, at what are the main barriers and risks identified up to now? Preparation of initial phase of the project started in February 2008. In December 2011, we signed the interoperators agreement with Litgrid, and today project is entering into physical construction phase. The main barriers identified were related to permit granting procedures. which required very long administrative actions. Next, complicated procedures were related to environmental impact assessment. On the different stage of the project development, due to the mentioned barriers, we note some high risks that the project schedule may not be kept. The positive message for today is that due to the implemented by TSO effective monitoring procedures and predictions of the risk and preparations of activities to manage that risk, it was possible to put project back on schedule. I would like to underline an important role of effective social communications, the communications with local social communities needed to achieve planned project progress. We did it by getting on board the concerned chiefs of regional administration, the concerned voivodes, and showing the economic impact the new infrastructure may have on their area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's, of course, a massive project. I think the environmental issues are very important. Maybe we can hear also how it looks from the Lithuanian side, whether it's the same kind of barriers there.
Thank you. Good morning, dear participants. I am representing Litgrid, Lithuanian TSO. Just a few words about Lithuanian power system to help you to understand how small we are. The total annual consumption of Lithuania is almost 10 terawatt hours, which is around 14-15 times lower than Polish power system. So this shows how important it is for us financing of European scale projects, which we are currently doing in Baltic and particularly in Lithuania. In my view, TSOs play extremely important role to make Baltic region fully fledged, integrated to the European internal energy market and power system successful. So infrastructure development is one of the key pillar to achieve this. My colleague Caesar already told a lot of Litpoliink. Just to add to his speech that Litpoliink was established in 2008. So now project is, let's say, on finish line. Implementation is already started, construction is already starting. But just to help you understand, first talks took place in 1992. So 21 years already. We are developing this cross-border interconnection. And it took a lot of efforts from both sides, from Lithuania as well as from Poland, to make it happen. So, and the break event, I think, was in 2008 when the Litpoliink was established as a company. And Litpoliink as a company showed really good performance. Of course, not without efforts from TSOs. So, regarding infrastructure development, we have also NordBalt project ongoing. This project will interconnect Lithuanian and Swedish power system. Looking to the bigger map, this project will interconnect Baltic electricity market with Scandinavian electricity market. So Baltic market, it's 20 or 30 times smaller than Scandinavian one. So, and we also believe that this project will help us to develop market and to have a market equally accessible to all market participants, from Baltic, from Scandinavia, as well as from the third countries. So, however, let me also draw your attention to the permit granting for new infrastructure projects in Lithuania. It is really important for Lithuania, for TSO, and it's really difficult time and effort consuming. But I believe it's not only Lithuanian problem, it's European-wide problem. And the new guidelines on infrastructure by European Commission tackles the problem of permit granting across Europe. And it's a call to all related stakeholders to look for most reasonable and politically and publicly acceptable solutions. That's really welcomed by TSO as a developer of infrastructure. I would like also mention other project, which I would call long-term project. This project is included into PCI list, which was recently announced by European Commission. I mean, integration of Baltic states with continental network for synchronous operation. It's really challenging project. This project involves not only Baltic states, not only Lithuania or Poland. This project involves also continental Europe grid and Baltic grid. So first steps has been done. So we have this project in PCI list, but a lot of homeworks are left to be done. And especially important role is, in my understanding, from our colleagues from Poland, because the only one way to interconnect Baltic power systems with continental Europe for synchronous operation is via Poland. So it's huge work in front of us. But I believe, I don't know when, but according to a recent study in 2020, 2025, we can achieve this. It's also important to state from our point of view that we are facing some problems to implement European Union requirements expressed via network codes developed by NSOE. And those problems are natural ones because we are still operating in IPS-UPS power system. And it's obvious that we need some transitional period to implement those network codes, but it's also obvious that we will implement them, and there is no excuses for this. The only question of time, how long it will take, because different code, different issues to be solved. To finalize my short intervention, let me remind you that 2 regional projects, infrastructure projects, were proposed by Lithuania and were included into the PCI list, LitPolink and integration with continental European network for synchronous work. Those 2 projects are really important for Lithuania as well as NordBalt. NordBalt is already financed by other funds. We appreciate this decision of great importance, and we believe that European financial support using Connecting Europe facilities is of extreme value for the implementation of these projects. Without such contribution, the feasibility of these projects could become very, very uncertain, especially for such small TSO, such small country like Lithuania. And if you look to the NSOE 10-year network development plan, Lithuania, as well as our neighboring TSOs from Latvia and Estonia, we are implementing European scale project, being one of the smallest in geographical map. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just come back on one issue for both of you. You said the talk started in 1992, and then it took 15 years before you signed an agreement. And I understand from what you were saying why it has taken time since then. But why did it take those 15 years? What was the blockage at the beginning?
If I may answer, because I told this date. So actually, I would not call it blocking. I would call it as a challenging question, because after Soviet Union collapsed, Lithuania and neighboring Baltic countries became new independent states, and we started to create new history, not only politically but also technically. And those two projects, Litpoliink and Nordbalt, and other Lithuanian infrastructure projects, are first projects which we started to develop after Soviet Union collapse. And it's obvious we needed some time to create good practice. So, and I believe that next interconnections will go faster and more smoothly.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to a different geography altogether, towards Southern Europe. But maybe we encounter some similar barriers. I'll hand over to Artūras Zervas.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the Lithuanian presidency for the invitation, make the possibility to be here with you. Let me start by, before arriving to Greece, starting for the big picture of the European. And I'm looking just the title of the conference I have in front of me, Completing the Internal Energy Market, Building the Integrated European Energy Network. And I think, I think it's the same line as Commissioner was saying yesterday, that we are not there in completing the internal energy market. We have 28 different markets, which we try to bring together, and which, to me, the end of 2014 as the date of achieving the internal market and the arriving at the target model, I think we are far away from there, especially in that part of Europe which Greece belongs and which is then southeastern part and the Balkans. So I would say that a big step towards the completing the internal energy market would be to have a regional energy policy. And I think the title of the session is on the regional energy policy. And I think that should aim really as a first step, at least in our area, to have a real regional policy in the Balkans and in southeastern Europe as a step approaching the internal energy market in the Union. What has been a new element in the last few years, which really makes, to my sense, also the story of the cross-border capacity increase and the whole discussion we have here as more important, is the new element has been the rapid expansion of the renewables in some of the EU countries. So together the two elements, the need for the internal electricity market and the rapid expansion of renewables, make really the cross-border capacity increase as a prerequisite to all the talks about completing the internal energy market. So in that sense, I think the CPIs are very important in order to move to that direction. Coming now to the Balkans in particular, which is a bit different than the Baltic in the sense that the Balkans are, since 2004, they are interconnected with the NSOE continental synchronous zone. But on the other hand, it is a system which is, they are not really very cohesive, the networks in the Balkans. They are rather sparse, and which results to a reduced exchange capability in the area. So the integration here, there are needs of integration in a different sense that it is on the Baltic area. But so we need really extensive interactions between the systems, which are happening now between the system of the different countries in the area, and which needs in reality a closer cooperation and coordination in the planning and the development of the electricity networks. So from our side, coming to Greece, our TSO, which is, for the time being at least, is a subsidiary of the Public Power Corporation, so it's an ITO. It cooperates with the other system operators in order to see what are the developments and what are the bottlenecks of these developments. So we have 400 kV lines, which are connecting us to all our neighbors, which means Albania, Fyrom, Bulgaria, recently Turkey, and also have a line connecting, a submarine line connecting us to Italy. So we are in the process of building a second line with Bulgaria. But all this, in reality, which one will look as, a good interconnection framework, this will not have a sense really in increasing the power transfer capability if the formation of the system in the Balkans doesn't work. So I would support very much the talk in the previous panel of the energy community of a special program regarding the Western Balkans. And I think this is extremely important for the connection of the area, the connection to the system. What is the particularity and the difficulty, I think, particularly in Greece, but I think in the whole region for other reasons, is financing, in reality. I'm not going to go into the details. I think everybody knows what are the situation in Greece and what are the difficulties, but the difficulties in financing are really extremely important. You don't have a banking system that is working. If you can arrive to have a loan, it's going to be at the numbers which are beyond what we can think in the Northern Europe. So that makes really the main difficulty in developing this interconnection. This has to be taken into account somehow, not only for Greece, for the whole region. That's why I was saying for the Western Balkans. So as I said, there is this second transmission line with Bulgaria, which will help a lot. There is also a study with a new DC interconnection with Italy. And then this, looking into the south, is this ambitious project that was referenced also yesterday of the Euro-Asia interconnector, which bring us to close the Mediterranean ring somehow through Cyprus, Crete, Israel, Cyprus, Crete, and then the mainland Greece. Now there is another particularity in Greece, on the internal market of Greece, and which is the islands. There, let's say in the past, though there have been interconnections with the Ionian Islands on the western part of the country, but still most of the Aegean Islands are not interconnected. So we have 70 autonomous systems, small and medium autonomous systems, which represent more or less 10% of the population and of the customers, let's say, of the electricity customers. So one of the big projects for the 10-year plan for the TSO is the interconnections with those islands. So make them first in the Cyclades and then with Crete, which is the biggest one of them. So this also puts a lot of, there has a lot of burden, if you want, in the development. And again, the big issue, I think, for us is the financing and how this will be achieved. And we need there to be creative, I would say, in that sense. Not to say anything about looking forward to 2050 and all the things that we have to do in that sense. But let me stop here. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Let me follow up on the financing point. I mean, are you saying that additional financing is needed? I mean, there's, of course, money already through structural and cohesion funds. There's money through the European Investment Bank, the project bonds. Do you need a different type of financing, or is it difficult to access the funding which is there?
It's difficult to access the funding. I think it's not because we're talking big projects. So in reality, okay, we're going to use the structural funds there that are needed. The European Investment Bank always is very helpful. It has been helpful, but it's not enough. In reality, if you want to complete this project, so you need really financing from additional financing from the banks, which are not there, and if they are lending with prohibitive. So it all depends, of course, of how the whole situation of the country will develop. But if we look, because I don't want to stress only the particularity of Greece, which is in a special condition at this stage, but if we look also at the Balkans, there's difficulty for other reasons. We have to understand that the GDP of the area is much lower than in Northern Europe. So that also puts a burden in all this situation, in the financing story, also in a different way.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I think this is a good point to open it up. We'll take a few more minutes before lunch. So who would like to make a start with a question or a comment? I saw one there. Maybe I'll collect 2 or 3 and then go back to the panel.
Thank you. My name is Jorgo Riss from Greenpeace. I have a question to Mr. Hvdc and Mr. Zervos. And this question is triggered by something that Mr. Hvdc said at the very beginning of his speech. You compared Lithuania to Poland and described, and you said the Lithuanian energy market is very small. Now, of course, in terms of population and economic activity, there's also a big difference between the 2 countries. And if my quick calculation is right, then really what you're saying is that the Lithuania uses per capita as much, if not more, energy than Poland, and related to economic activity, probably more. So actually, you have a very inefficient energy system in this country, which is a great opportunity. Because as we heard from Fatih Birol yesterday, addressing inefficiency is probably the best way to start in cutting energy costs and improving the resilience of your energy system. So my question is the following. If you have a very energy inefficient system, as you're planning your interconnections, to what extent, or how much, both for Lithuania and for Greece, how much clarity do you feel you have about the potential and the actual steps that your countries are taking to address inefficiency, which would reduce your overall energy needs, and also to improve the national renewable potential, so the indigenous production? How much clarity is there, or how much lack of clarity is there? How much is your planning on, integration, on further interconnections and networks connected to clarity on efficiency and renewables, and to how much is it happening sort of separated and in a parallel world? Thank you.
Okay, there was a fairly lengthy and multiple question, so I think I'll give everyone a chance to answer it.
Actually, we as a TSO, when we are creating grid development plan, for sure we are observing the consumption side, how it's growing or decreasing, where it's growing, where it's decreasing. And based on recent statistic, Lithuanian consumption is still growing. In 2006, 2007, the growth was around 4–5% annually. Now the growth is around 1% annually, I mean consumption side. Regarding efficiency, it's hard to say, is this growth related with efficiency? Is this growth related only with economy? But I believe that our consumers are taking care about efficiency, how to use electricity in an efficient way. But from the other hand, I see the potential in Lithuania for growth. I mean, being comparable new economy in European Union map, we still have potential to grow, and statistics is proving this. Purely technically, Lithuanian grid was designed as part of Soviet Union grid, western part of Soviet Union grid, and to compare today's consumption, today's peak load, I would say, just in figures, in Soviet Union time, peak load in Lithuania was close to 6,000 megawatts. Today we have around 2,000, so 3 times lower. So grid has potential to grow. And all the infrastructure projects which we are doing right now are related how to interconnect markets, because currently we have links only to East, and we need links to Scandinavia, we need links to Poland to create more attractive opportunities for industry, for future investors into Lithuania, into Baltic, and to create conditions, equal conditions to all market participants to access different markets. So there was also a question regarding renewables. Yeah? So renewables policy is described in Lithuania in so-called renewable energy law. And we have quotas for wind, for solar, and those quotas are mainly based on technical capabilities of the power system, and also based for financial capabilities for country to pay subsidies, because currently all the renewables are subsidized, at least in Lithuania. I'm convinced almost everywhere in Europe. In Europe is the same. So I'm not sure if I didn't answer your question. You are always welcome to join discussion of the session.
Yeah, let me answer a bit indirectly to the question, if I understood it well. First of all, in Greece, we have about 22 to 25% of electricity from renewables at this stage, which, let's say, created some problems, especially in terms of the PV, how has been, as in many countries, which now put us in a difficult position in terms, the government, not us, in terms of how to deal with the question of the levy that we have for the consumers, etc. I mean, something that we've seen in different parts of Europe. So, Looking ahead, it was the part that I didn't touch, looking in 2030 or 2050. What should we do? In terms of interconnection, staying at our subject, this also is interrelated with a framework that we're going to have for 2030 and 2050. So if we are not sure that we have a stable framework, and that's the reality in the hands of the Commission to put, and of the Council, of course, at the end of the day, to put the new framework that we're going to talk about 2030 and possibly afterwards 2050, then really we have to do the real planning of the story. Because the real planning is not only interconnection, it's what is going to be the energy mix in 2020 and 2030, and as a consequence of that, what are going to be the needed interconnections, not only in the country, but in the region, as I was saying before, in order to have this unified and integrated system in Europe, which will help the development also of renewables. So from the moment that we don't have, so I hope that we arrive soon at the European level really to define this framework, and then having this defined framework to have the planning that we should do.
Thank you. I'm aware this is all which stands between you and lunch, so I will only take one more round of questions. There was one over here.
Thank you. Ernest Kovac, Energy Community Secretariat. It's a question for Mr. Hvdc. Having in mind Ukraine and Moldova, so two of our members who have also the same Soviet Union grid and electricity power regime, I'm interested in your experience. How did you decide to make this interconnection with Poland and Sweden? With, of course, this, how it is called, direct connector or whatever. So, because there was a, let's say, official policy, even of NSOE, and for many years, that all Europe should be synchronized. So you are not going to be synchronized, but you will become a part of internal energy market, what is, of course, great. But, I mean, could you explain us these dilemmas in your country in the past, and how much this cost more or not more? So, because there are, of course, countries with different power system as well, besides your Baltic example.
Okay. I'll take this one at the same time here. Just here in front.
Thank you. Again, a question to Mr. Hvdc, and a very simple one. Now that you are unbundled as a TSO in the 3 Baltic states, would it not make sense to have the 3 TSOs becoming one single TSO to make a stronger grid and a better power for negotiation with your neighbors?
Okay. Is there any more question for this panel? There's one, take that as the last one right at the back, all the way at the back.
Thank you. My name is Linas Balsys, member of Lithuanian Parliament Energy Commission. My question would go to the Lithuanian and Polish representatives on the interconnection links. I can understand perfectly the sense of interconnection with Sweden, the NordLink, which will bring enormous opportunity to Lithuania and the Baltic countries to import or maybe even export some renewables energy to Scandinavian district, bearing in mind that Lithuania, as the other Baltic countries, are already part, we've chosen to be the part of the Nordic electricity exchange, the Nord Pool spot system. So that's going to work with the NordLink. So Mr. Hvdc said that the Litpo link, the Polish link, is already lasting for more than 20 years and nothing substantial is happening. Maybe there are some problems on the Polish side, and maybe this Litpo link will lead to nowhere in Poland. So my question would be then, so what is the sense for the Litpolink, why the Polish side is so reluctant, and why do we need it? Because it will not be suitable for the synchronization with the continental Europe. So for the synchronization, we will need to build another Litpolink, which will be not the DC type, but will be AC type. So that's what's the common economic, so to say, background of that. Why Poland does not want it? Why do we want it? Thank you.
So, as I said in my introductory statement, in northeastern part of Poland we have relatively poor transmission network, only single circuits 220 kV lines, and from our perspective that project is very expensive, and for many years it was non-effective for us, and as I said, 30% of the financial of the project is from European funds. But from the perspective of TSO, each interconnection, each connection with neighboring TSO is good. It's good for the two point of view. One is that in some difficult conditions we can support each other, we can support neighboring system. It's a security of supply, that is improvement of security of supply, and another one is that we create possibility to development of energy market and to exchange electricity between countries. Now after the decision of implementation of the project, we are on track, I can say, and that project is fully financed, and so in the past there were some problems with decisions, depends of non-effectiveness of this project.
So thank you for many questions. If I miss one of them, please excuse me. I'm available after discussion. So there was a question about single TSO in Baltic countries. I would believe it possible in case we will have single regulator in Baltic countries. Otherwise, it's hard to imagine how it would work in efficient way. From other hand, it's political decision, definitely, because all TSOs in all Baltic countries are fully controlled by states. And for example, in Lithuanian case, Lithuanian TSO is also responsible for implementation of national energy strategy, the strategy which is approved by Lithuanian parliament, and there should not be any discussion to implement or not. We must to implement. And I'm already switching to the second question, why HVDC? Why not synchronization as a first step? In the national energy strategy was said that there is no time. We cannot wait 20 or 10 years for synchronization because it's challenging, it's time consuming. We should do market interconnection as a first steps. And for Lithuania and Sweden case, that's the only technical way to interconnect. For Lithuania and Poland case, HVDC will be built, but there is also technical possibility in the same Alytus substation to switch HVDC to Belarusian line in case of synchronization with continental Europe and desynchronization from IPS-UPS system. And this HVDC could be, technically it's possible, could be used for market interconnection, I mean Baltic and third countries in Belarus. So I hope that that's it.
Thank you. I don't want to stand between you and lunch much longer. Just a couple of words from my perspective. I think certainly there are a lot of signs of progress, and I particularly welcome the progress on the Connecting Europe facility, which we have always supported very strongly. But I think we've also heard that there are a number of barriers which remain, both at the EU level and at the national level, be it around financing, be it around market integration and design, or be it around regulation, permits, environmental issue, planning issues. So there's still a lot of work which needs to be addressed at the national and the EU level. And we will need that action to deliver an integrated, smart, efficient trans-European grid, which can deliver all of our political, economic, and environmental objectives. So it's still a big task ahead. And as a little sign of caution, I don't think we have 21 years to deliver it. We have to have action much faster to see progress on the ground in the coming years, and hopefully by 2020, a similar conference will note how much progress has been made in this direction. So thank you all for taking part in the discussion. Thank you very much to the organizers for putting on this panel, and thank you, of course, to the panelists. Thank you.